I am here.
Yay.
Hold the applause. Hold the applause.
Did you hear? Oh, go ahead.
No. God, no. I only heard the, once again, Stacy's talking to the
Oh. I don't want it. BBS said, I have another idea for a podcast. I said, I don't want it.
I don't want it either.
Nope.
I don't want nothing dark-sided.
Nope.
Has Olivia ever been on the podcast?
Who? Oh, Lord, no. Absolutely not.
I would like to see.
Absolutely never.
Do you know how long it took me to get on this podcast? I had been trying for months.
Right? How long it took Philip?
Seriously.
Yeah.
It'd be like a year.
Right.
Where can I see the chat?
This girl retweeted one of my tweets, so I looked at her profile. Mm-hmm. And, like, mind you, she doesn't have a lot of followers, but her followers are active because a lot of people just started retweeting this tweet. But her profile, literally, it has a picture of Holland Roden, and then her header is Dylan and Julia holding Buddy and Clyde. It says, long-suffering Dylan Stan, hashtag Teen Wolf, hashtag Maze Runner, hashtag American Assassin. If you hate Riverdale, Malia, or Teresa, don't talk to me. I was like, those are literally the three things that we cannot talk about. I was like, how did you even find me? Much less reblock me. I was like, oh, girl.
Holy moly.
I was like, please don't look at any of my page. Please.
We literally don't even refer to Shelley Hennig as, like, her name.
Right. We call her SMS, and every time there is someone new who's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Mind your business. That's what it means. Mind your business. Mm-hmm. Check this out, Ethan. And then,
I saw that.
Yes.
I've been keeping up with the Weird City stuff a little bit.
I cannot wait, and I love the
I'm excited. I mean, I like anything sci-fi or anthology, so...
Well, that specific one, he does the little trill thing, which I love, but he's also in there with Zeke Nicholson, who I also love, and so he is on this podcast called, well, actually, hold on, let me get the live link, and then I'll start jabber-jawing. Man, I took some notes.
Is he confirmed by in this?
No, well, not yet. So this is one of the things where right? If he's not, he will be.
That's exactly right. That's what I like to hear. The fans be doing work.
Right. We're like, oh, you thought you was cute. Man, people are playing me tonight. I am getting played all over the place. I got so much to tell y'all before we even get started. Let me get this live stream started, and then we'll go from there. Oh no! Yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. We got lots to talk about. Oh, there is so much going on. I said so much going on. I'm excited. This show was, haunting if Hill House cost. Lord, I can't type. I can't write because I'm so excited. All right, let me post this in the thread. Oh, Bucky. You're always slightly late. It's always slightly late. All right, so, first I'm going to get 3 pieces of news out the way.
Oof, okay.
Hold on. So she said, Ariette said, I forgot everything about the series the moment it was over.
That ain't even right.
Right? And Sparky, the movie is much different.
Mm-hmm.
Or the movie, yeah, the show, and the show is much different, evidently. Yeah, now I'm wondering now I'm definitely kind of wondering what the book is about. Because as I read about...
It is different.
Well, yeah.
As far as I understand, it's very, very different. I actually haven't read it.
Well, there was this whole article about, basically the de-queerization of The Haunting of Hill House. And I was like, you have a major queer character, like all these queer elements. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, in the book, it has all these queer themes that were well represented. And I'm like, they were undertones at best. And they had to have been at that point. I was like, yes. Theo straight up gets married in the show. Like, what are you talking about? And so they were talking about the book, and they kept talking about Nelly, and they kept saying her husband's last name. And I was like, is Nelly not related to them? And then I was like, oh, so there are some definite differences.
Which is now?
No,
not in the book. Not in the book.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Hey, Aiden. Hey, Sparky Fox. I want to make sure that Alana gets on because she was definitely hyped and was like, so yeah, while people are coming on, let me do the quick updates. First of all, to geneticist Nonnie, and I knew that they were doing this because, they sent in this stupid ask that was like, I love the way that they cast Lyndon Ashby with his light hair and light eyes. It's just amazing how genetic works, that they still got styles and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, it's lazy casting. Shut up, you're dumb. You know? And I was like, and watch, I bet you the very next ask is going to be some long, boring ask about how interesting their boring family is. And how everybody in their family has brown eyes and brown hair, and everybody else has light eyes, and everybody married people with brown hair. The very next ask was exactly that. And it was long, and it was dry, and it was boring. And I have a response to it that was very not nice. And I had to delete it. And I was just like, I'm not doing this with you guys. And so I just ignored it. Because I was like, I'm not hurting any feelings today. Because it was really not nice. And so then people just started kind of talking about like fan caster for Claudia's mom. And I was like, okay, whatever.
This is a much better conversation to be having.
At least it's Teen Wolf related and not your boring family related. You know?
Exactly.
And then,
I had someone reblog my Freud Gutierrez gift from yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And basically in the tags is telling Freud, stop, please stop. You're looking like my brother and I can't take this. Please stop. And I'm like, nobody else needed to know that you're thirsting for your brother.
Exactly.
In a non-entertainment kind of way. You know what I
And
mean?
then also brag. Like, that's all they're doing. Is, like, bragging on their brother. Like, my brother's hot. I'm just like...
Which is always a problem.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you got some stuff to work out, and I'm gonna let you finish, but after that, you need to go.
I just need you to calm down.
Yeah, I appreciate the reblog and everything, but that was really the fuck out.
Be prepared. Hey, Best. Hey, Ariette. Sparky. Yes, boo. She was like, not nice responses for Anons is why I follow your Tumblr. Yay, Greyhound's girl made it. There was another Anon. Oh, and then there's been this Anon lately. So someone went on all the extra O'Brien talk and was like, oh, basically concern trolling. I noticed there hasn't been a lot of activity for Dylan and Hoechlin lately. And it's like, currently there's been the most that there's ever been. Like, there's been a ton of activity for both of them. Specifically, Dylan and Hoechlin. And so I'm like, from Jump Street, you're trash. And so, like, two asks, I'll troll you a little bit, and then we're done. But there are some nannies that just keep going with it. So then this one nanny is like, Dylan has all these projects on his IMDb, and he's going to be doing this, and there's Marceau, and there's the Bayou. And I was like, first of all, those are fake projects. I was like, they're not going to happen. And second of all, it doesn't matter. What he's doing right now is still more than what Posey is doing on any day of the week. Freaking Weird City has 3.5 million views. It is going to break the internet next week. Like, he can't say anything. Nothing can be said at this point. Stop trying to fight. At this point, it's punching down. Stop punching down. You know. And so just like, you don't need to do this. I know, Ari, they're so busy. So I'm just like, ugh. And then we have this whole thing about Tyler Hoechlin, and I'm like, ugh, I need him to quit pushing away his fan base. I need him to start mobilizing them so that he can finally get what he wants. Starting with, he needs to tell us what he freaking wants. Go for it.
I want to get what I want.
I'm just like, I think, but he could do it. I'm like, I just want to be.
My theory holds true, Sticky. Theory holds true.
Yeah.
Where he likes to vacation more than he likes to work. And he works to vacation.
But I'm like, at this point, then I need you to cement that. You know, then I need you to give me 5 good years of work. So that you could take 10 years of vacation. You know what I mean?
I think and the reason why he doesn't want to do this is because he'll think so that's the thing where it's like, well, he might think, oh, well, I'm gonna get like lazy if I don't, right?
But okay.
But like for some reason, like it matters enough to him to not do that.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's the athlete.
It doesn't matter enough.
Is that the athlete in him, do you think? Is that the team sports? Like, it's just kind of ingrained?
You have a season mentality to
it,
absolutely.
I can
where
see
he's
that.
Like, there's an on and an off season.
Yeah. Because it's so there was a story. Oh, God, there's so much going on. But there was a story that he was somewhere, and he was dressed up in a very nice suit, and he was at a very nice place. And he was at this place for an event, but the story that was told about him at this place seemed to be independent of this event. So I know it sounds confusing, but I'm of the mind that this event and this story happened in the same place. Another person is thinking that they happened in 2 different places. And I said, here's why they don't. Because of the jacket he wore to Cinqua's premiere. We're not getting Tyler Hoechlin in a suit in a nice place unchaperoned twice. It's not gonna happen. No, absolutely not. The boy can.
What happened? What was the story? Just that he was there. What was the story? Like, what was the?
The assumption is that if it were 2 separate things, that one was the event, which was an industry event, and then one was a date, quote unquote. I don't think that there was a date. I think that it was,
A date with Cinqua?
I know, right? Not in that jacket. Cinqua's like, boo, you need to leave that at home, along with the shacket and along with the khakis. And no, absolutely not. Maybe the child actor. I could see that too. But yeah, I feel like if Hoechlin would, because the thing is, I feel like he's one step away from inspirational speaker. I feel like he wants to get on a stage and like inspire people. And I feel like he's good with people. He one-on-one, like I've seen him with his fans, and I don't feel like it's all a put on. You know, I've seen him be like genuine with his fans. And so I'm like, if you could mobilize them and if you could mobilize them and really, and you could get them together and you could get that, like you could get whatever you want. And we wouldn't have these conversations about, you know, is the CW trying to put.
Okay, but here's my thing with that. One, you have to have a success. And I love Hoechlin to pieces. And he's had some nice successes, but has he had the success that you sell that story off of?
Well, that's what, yeah.
Two, you got to be Nisha level of engaging.
Exactly.
To really mobilize in that direction.
Because that's what I wonder. That's really what I base it off of, especially at this point in the game. He really needs to, and if it's a matter of, well, I want my privacy, I'm like, then there's a way to say, hey, here's my private life and here's the life that I give you guys. And I feel like he can never make that balance work. And because of that, it always looks like he's hiding something. And so it's just like, God dang.
Because instead of restructuring his own behavior, he just gets angry and frustrated
and shuts off
people and situations.
And shuts off. And so I wonder about, because you look at the Supernatural guys, they've got it. And they understand 100%. They can do whatever they want. If Jensen Ackles wrote a movie tomorrow, he could get it made next month and it would go on Vimeo and it would make money and be successful and it would make enough so he can make another movie based 100% off the Supernatural fandom alone.
Yep.
And I'm like, Tyler Hoechlin has the potential to have that kind of fan base, but he just doesn't seem to want it. But I'm you can't do that and then keep going to these conventions, especially when it's the cattle call ones.
He doesn't want to live in Canada.
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, oh well, he's got to do something.
I just feel like he doesn't... I can't see him being a very good, like, speaker or something like that. Because, like, there's no, like, tragedy. There's no struggle. There's no anything like that. There's nothing like, I overcame this.
Yeah.
Puberty,
you know what it could be. But yeah. I know.
I do.
Right.
I'm so jealous of his level of puberty. Like, God damn it.
Oh, yeah. It's, like, disturbingly just, yeah, exactly. That's the one thing. Yeah, that's, like, the one thing. He, like, ugly ducklinged, like, hard.
But so, that is also true, and that is a complaint that we've had for a while. Because I remember back when he was going with Britt to the Love is Louder events, back when they actually went to schools and actually talked to children.
Instead of just being a shell company for
right,
money.
Exactly. He would sit in the back and they would... I remember one time someone asked him about being bullied. He's like, well, I've never really been bullied. And I was like, Hoechlin, I was like, can you ask someone else what it was like and maybe come up with a better response? Like, dude, what is going on? It was just like, full stop.
Even had fun. We'll playfully show you what it's like.
Oh, hey. He's like, we'll give you some experience. So yeah, it's a mess. He's got to go. Oh, see, and I feel like Hoechlin. Oh, I feel like he doesn't. He has stories to tell, but none that he actually ever will. And that's unfortunate.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I remember I asked him one time at a convention, I was like, you know, you have, give us an example of the story that you want to tell. You want to write a script. What is this? What is it about? And he started rambling, and it became like a story of a man of his dog in space. And I was just like, okay.
Oh my God.
It was
completely just, like, how can you say, like, that just bothers me so much, because it's like, he had all of these thoughts for Steric, right? Like, him and Dylan, like,
yes,
this stuff out,
exactly.
right? And then he doesn't have a script that he would want to do or anything like that. He doesn't have, like, a big, like, idea in his head that he's just like, I have put hours and pen to paper, or
I'm telling you, Jeff beat it out of him. Jeff was like, oh, no.
Actors don't write.
No.
Actors don't write.
Only Dylan. Because it used to be only Dylan who would come up with like ideas and that kind of stuff. And do you remember during like season 5, or it was the beginning of season 6, when SMS herself got her big old face in front of a camera and was like, Jeff says no one else can improvise. He said, only me. He said, no one else can improvise. Only you. And I was like, I hate everything about this moment right now. I was like, if there were a building, I would jump off of it right now. But, yeah, I think he just lost a lot of, but then I'm like, see, we got to the point.
What was Posey's face like when she said that?
What, huh?
What was Posey's face like?
I was probably doing a girls' panel.
No, yeah, well, no, it was during one of their featurettes, and so the camera, she was like talking into the camera, and she was like whispering it, but it was the featurette during Posey's episode where he was directing, and so he didn't hear her, but I was like,
I would have killed to see his reaction to that.
That would have been good. Woo! Yikes! What a mess.
I know, that's one of those sort of like sinking ships. Like he took everybody else down with him, huh?
Well, yeah.
Like, I ain't ever gonna get a job anymore. Well, neither will.
Well, neither will any of y'all. Except they are
That's
working, and they are not bringing him with them. Like,
Besides Posey, who has that messy show that I am.
Woo!
My interest is peaked. I will not be paying money to see this show.
Well, I already have stars, so that's the only reason I will be. But however, Outlander just finished, so I might not have stars for long. We'll see what happens.
You are not allowed to watch that on the Stars app. You will find other ways to watch the show. Any views?
No.
We're hiring a homophobic actor who has yet to apologize for multiple homophobic things over and over and over on this show.
I had a dream that Posey started to apologize, but then like someone egged him, and then he just went way the other direction and just had a fit. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I was like,
par for the course.
I kind of want this to come true.
He was reading the script, but he was like, nah, this is too much. I'm not going to let them force me into being this. I'm going to speak my mind. And then boom.
Right.
Got the whole, if you were
Well,
hurt,
Steric was stupid. I had to deal with it all the time at home. Why should I have to deal with it at work? You should have seen them at the apartment. They kept kissing each other, saying how much they loved each other. I didn't want to have to deal with that at work. Oh, no one's giving me that. I'm going to do a whole jealous Posey. Part of my Dylan X Day, I'm going to do a whole jealous Posey rant. That's going to lead up to BWT.
Hair, but they will never get a watch from it.
Right, exactly. It's so funny because all of the reviews are just basically confirming exactly what I predicted, which is, it's Greg Radke, so it's going to be a mess.
Yes, it will.
Yikes.
A beautiful mess.
We'll see. On that note, welcome everyone to Beacon Hills After Dark, the Haunting of Hill House cast. I, of course, am Sticky Keys. With me tonight, we have involuntary co-host Ethan. Say hi, Ethan.
Hello, everybody.
Yay.
I am so hyped.
Yes, I'm so excited. And involuntary permanent engineer Philip. Say hi, Philip.
Hey everybody, I already started drinking.
Yeah, ooh. I don't have anything to drink, otherwise that would be good. I should get some water. I have this ice, but it doesn't melt down fast enough.
You and yo ice, I swear.
Man, the struggle is real. So, I don't know if Hoechlin knows about Tomas Moya. I feel like he should, but I don't know if he does.
Saw a clip where it looks like SMS is showing him her Instagram, like, oh, here's this Tomas Moya kid.
I thought so
real?
too. I think I have seen that.
Tomas asked someone to send it to him, and I think like 20,000 people sent it.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, but to say, Tomas is definitely a stan.
Actually, he did propose on live a Q&A, and let's see, where's Tomas?
Some Nonnie tried to write, being trash. It was probably Sam, but it was like, please stay away from Tomas. Something about...
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and I was like, I love how you think this makes me look bad. Because I'm like, you don't know him at all. So it's like you're trying to protect him.
Tomas is a big boy.
Yeah, I'm like...
saying yes or no without any...
But even so, you're trying to protect this person you don't know from another person that you don't know? Like, what are you even talking about?
He said, someone asked him, I was like, how has your life changed since Teen Wolf? And he's like, it's going exactly the same.
Amazing!
Oh my god, that's good.
And then it's like, do you get people in real life who confuse you with him? Is it like whatever, or is it annoying? He's like, no, it doesn't bother me at all, but sometimes he gets a little emotional.
Oh my god!
And then,
What I want to do...
people have asked him for pictures a few times. And he's like, it's the worst because he's the shyest person ever.
Oh!
And then his cousin sends him the ask, stop lying, you're the least shy person.
Like, why you gotta call me out?
Oh my god.
I kind of want... So on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there is the season where Jake and Lieutenant Holt have to go on witness protection. And so they have to go down and work at this funplex in Florida. And so Captain Holt, he has to do kids parties. And so he has to do this rap, and he was like, at Funplex, today is your day, da-da-da-da, it's your birthday. And so he has to do for this kids, and he goes, Derek, Derek. One day, I want to do that to Tyler Hoechlin. I don't know why. It's going to make no sense. It's going to have no context. Or I just want Jason Mantzoukas from The Good Place, just be like, Derek? Do that. Any joke Derek related.
Jake Peralta is a bicon.
I love it! I love him so, and I love his hair this season. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm here for it. I love it. Okay. Oh my god, spoilers. How dare you. Zooks! And so, yes, Jake's hair. Oh my god, those frosted tips, everything. Bucky. So, no. No, but
He's
still.
not actually bi.
I know, but in general,
Wow.
we love him.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Oh my god. If Derek's Hales has wind chimes for a penis, then Styles' pussy is the wind. We'll work that analogy out later.
BBS, I am so sorry for you.
That's what's up.
The way they manage to talk about social justice issues without like throwing it in your face the way Supergirl and Charm do. Amazing.
Okay, that's good. So it's possible that Roswell will prove me wrong. Until then, I will hedge my bets.
All right, we'll see what happens. We'll see what
maybe
happens.
Maybe this whole Michael is bi thing will turn into a biphobia storyline plot.
Maybe. I come on, show us a throuple. Show us.
No throuple.
Yes, throuple.
Although thruples are kind of the thing recently, and I'm kind of here for some thruples. But it depends also on like what kind, because like Elite had a throuple and I was here for it. Cristiarlo, yes, all day, every day. Insatiable had a throuple, Cora Bob, and I was here. Although one Bob wasn't here for it, and I was very sad about that. But that's kind of always the thing with thruples, is there's always one who's just not in for it, and I'm like, no, you guys, come on,
because they got to be drama. Well, that's the whole thing, right? Because it's going to become drama about his sexuality rather than...
Well, you all have to be on the same page, and it's like, there's always that one person who's like, I just don't know. This seems weird,
that
you guys.
With the following. Although I have to give them credit. It was in... when did the following do that? 2013?
No, Sparky, that doesn't count.
2013, they tried to do a throuple, and there were some issues with it for sure.
Well, also it's on the following. Yeah, I was gonna say that wasn't gonna last.
No, but like honestly, like they tried it, and like I respect that.
All right, we need to get on this. We need to get on this app or this show. So, Haunting of Hill House debuted on Netflix and rocked the nation. I am not a person that likes scary movies. And so it takes a lot, especially for ghost stories. I don't like jump scares. I don't like being haunted. I don't like movies that I have to break out the blessed oil for, or that I have to pray before watching. And so I don't like movies that I have to consult with my minister before. And so I was not enthused, but I kept looking at it and I kept hearing good things about it. And then, of course, this one over here, Mr. Ethan, was like, sticky. And I was like, no, he was like, it is the story of a family that has gone through loss, that is keeping it together. And I was like, I'm in a family that's gone through loss, and I'm keeping it together. And he's like, and they're haunted by ghosts, but also by ghost. And I was like, what? You know, and I was like, ooh, metaphors. And so I was like, okay, fine. So I talked to my niece and I was like, all right, so are we going to do this? And she was like, okay, we're going to do this. But I said, we're going to do it during the day. And we are going to watch a couple of episodes in a big room. And so we watched it. And there were times like my great nephew would watch with us. So he would watch facing us, watching Power Rangers on his little iPad. So while we were watching, he'd be like, go, Power Rangers! You know, and so to like cut down on the tension while we were like, you know? And I was like, I got this side of the screen. You got that side of the screen. I'm like, what's happening on your side? She's like, I know what's happening on your side. And so together we got it figured out. But as we were watching, like I've gotten very good. It's so funny. People say that it's uncanny because right before there will be a jump scare in a movie, I know exactly when it's coming. I'll be like, And then people, like, a second later, someone has to be like, Stacey, how did you know? I'm like, don't do it, don't mess with me. And so,
I caught them all except that last one where I messaged
yes, that one got me. That we're gonna get to that one because that one got everybody, and it was perfect.
It was great. Some people saw it coming.
No,
and
but
I was like, are you kidding me?
But no, even the people who saw it coming, I don't even think saw it coming at that moment. And we'll talk about why. So we'll get there because that was a great one. And so as you kind of understood where the like scary for scary stuff was going to happen, then you could kind of relax and figure out like what the story was and kind of unwind and figure out, you know, how everything was connected. And so basically, you have the story of this family that has moved into this house to renovate it. It's a huge project. They moved in over the summer, and it is a husband, wife, and their 5 kids. You have the oldest, who is Stephen, and then Cheryl, Theo, Luke, and Nell, and then the husband, who is Hugh, and the wife, who is Olivia. They're caretakers who are, what's their name? Clara and, what's their last name? I'm blanking on it. It's not Douglas, it's...
Dudley.
Dudley, there we go. Thank you. And then, and they're the caretakers. And then, of course, you have the residents of the Hill House. Most notably, Joe Hill, Poppy Hill, and to a lesser extent, I think her name is Clara Hill. And we'll kind of go slightly into them. But we see them all as kids. And we basically kind of open with... Steve, basically all the kids being kind of torn away from the house in the middle of the night. The mom is kind of nowhere to be seen. And the dad is covered in blood and nobody knows what's going on. All of this is kind of seen in flashback mode, and we see the adult Hills. And so Stephen has grown up to be an author, and his claim to fame has been writing about the haunting of this house and then making money off of it. You have Cheryl, who runs a funeral home with her husband, Harris Funeral Home. You have Theo, who loves to go dancing in suspect outfits. Her first scene was like in these high-waisted jeans, a velvet like crop top thing, and then those gloves. I was like, what is happening? But she's
a disaster.
She looked a mess. Yeah, but she's also like a child psychologist, and she's also banned at her job. So I was like, okay, mama. And we'll get to her in a little bit too. You have Luke, who is just a mess of a human being. God bless him. He's got reasons and he's got feelings. Don't worry, Bellfire. We're going to talk about her. And then you have Nell, who I don't know if we ever talk about her career, but we know that she was married, and she's just an empath. She just has a lot of feelings at the beginning, and she is trying to call around because she's worried about her brother. I do kind of want to talk about that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And then finally, who am I missing? Is that everybody? Yep,
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Did I say Cheryl? Yeah, she has the funeral home. And then Theo. Okay, cool. And so let's see. Who's your favorite character? I know who your favorite character was, Ethan, but go ahead and tell the people. Who's your favorite kid?
Okay. Oh, my favorite kid.
And you could say kid and adult. Like, who's your favorite kid and who's your favorite adult?
Yeah. So my favorite kid was definitely, without a doubt, Theo.
Yeah, I love her.
Yes, definitely. She did such an amazing job. You really felt you really felt like she was older. Like, she didn't act like a kid. And, like, but it makes so much sense in the story. Once you find out, like, what's going on with her, it makes sense as to why. Like, sometimes kids can just be, like, hyper prescient or something like that, like, in a story, and it's just like, that's just not realistic.
Right.
And
like,
then
too
sometimes
precocious.
they're just way too stupid.
Right.
Yeah. And then sometimes they're just way too stupid for their own good. But Theo is just this interesting character that's just, like, she just has all of these things that are happening around her, and she just doesn't know how to, like, to parse them.
Right.
And so it ends up like informing her younger self so, like, beautifully. And the kid did such a great job with it.
She did a wonderful job. But one thing that ended up being heartbreaking about Theo's just existence is, you know, her mother, you always kind of have these plans. And her mother was like, you know, wear these gloves for now. And when you get older, I'll teach you how to kind of manage these feelings. And we see that Theo never takes off these gloves because she's never been taught how to manage these feelings. And it doesn't happen until she has to finally teach herself how to deal with it, or until, you know, Hill House really kind of lets her go so she can deal with it on her own. And I like that she kind of kept that, and how heartbreaking that was.
Yeah, and I knew that there was something up with it in episode 2. I knew, like, as soon as, like, she started, like, using her power and stuff, like, as soon as her power started happening, rather, I knew that there was something with it. And then, like, into the next episode, episode 3, which is her episode, I was totally right. I was like, holy crap. Like, or as soon as I saw the title, actually, I knew that I was right. that she had some form of psychometric power. And I was just like, yes. I was like, this is, as soon as I saw the title, I was like, oh my God. I was so totally right. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to see this. And then, like, halfway through the episode, I was like, oh my God, the gloves. I was like, holy crap, the gloves.
Sparky, she can, basically, she can touch an item and get the sense memory from the item. She can kind of see, it's kind of like history. She can see its history. And so, like, she, there was writing on a wall, and so she touched the wall and she was able to see how that writing got there. And like, there was, now, it can go back, but it can also go forwards in some instances. And so that was part of her trying to learn control of it, but she never really got that chance. Yeah, that was wild. Oh, God, especially when she touched her mom, and then she saw her, like, her head bashed and all that stuff, and she just didn't know how to process it. She was just broke down, and I was just like, and I think she never really forgave herself for that too. So your favorite adult?
My favorite adult is definitely Luke.
Yeah, that's a movie.
He's my woovie. He is the one that he has just gone through everything, and you could tell that he, you know, as a kid, obviously, he cared so deeply for his siblings, and he was just this happy-go-lucky kid, and then you sort of saw, like, how it was you saw, like, the other end of it, and where it got him and everything like that, and how, like, messed up he was, and him sort of trying to put the pieces back together and becoming whole again. And he never really lost that caring about others. It was always there. It was just, like, suppressed within him. Like, it was just covered up by, you know, he was a drug addict.
Well, kind of by the addiction, yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, what's kind of really sad about Luke is that on his own, he's really just a regular kid. It's honestly his connection with Nelly that spirals him out, and that's not his fault, but it's also not something that he would really give up. And I think that there's a part of Nelly that has always felt kind of culpable for that. Because I think that I think that the haunting part of it really connects to her more than anything. And I think that her connection with Luke is what draws him into that. But I don't think that he necessarily, because even later, like, she has a ghost and then he gets a ghost. But his ghost never really confronts him in the way that we see Nelly's ghost. You know what I mean? So, like, even when his hat person turns around, it's Olivia. It's not, you know, bent neck Luke. And so that kind of stuff. And so we'll kind of get more in that when we get into Nelly's character. But yeah, he was such a tragic character. And I love that he was like, I'm not high. You know, he was like, but I feel terrible. And it was just all the effects of Nelly dying just felt like withdrawal to him, but that's what it was. He was basically detoxing from his sister, which was like, oh my God.
That part broke my heart.
Yeah.
Just right into
Exactly.
just when I realized why he felt cold and everything like that. He was just like, I feel so cold. I feel empty and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's because Nelly is cold.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm just,
Broke my heart.
I can't. Let's see. Philip, tell us who's your favorite kid and your favorite adult.
My favorite kid and adult are the exact same person. It's Theo.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone here by now knows that I hate children and television and media. They are extremely whiny. And a lot of it has to do with my Latino upbringing. That the way kids are presented in media, those kids would not be allowed to be like that in real life. If they were in my life. Like, no way. So, like, when I see kids like, oh, but where are we going, Mommy? Why are we going so fast? It's like, no. Get up. Let's go. Silence. You go. So, I usually have this thing against children television. They're too whiny, way too inquisitive, don't seem to understand when their parents are in stressful positions or situations or not, like have no awareness for anyone but themselves. But Theo was something else. And if she wasn't this, like, straight-laced, you know, perfect child that is just, you know, like a mini adult, something was going on with her. You could tell. And there was also this deep love of making all of her siblings happy, I think, because she was the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, she wants to be the big brother and sister to Theo, to Luke and Nelly. But then she also wants to have fun with them because, you know, obviously Steven and Cheryl are a little bit more serious with the younger ones. So she's kind of caught in between. And I identified with her a lot, especially with, you know, her not being, you know, having something about herself that she couldn't explain.
I like that she's still a kid, though, and that's really what I liked about her character in particular. She's a serious kid, but she's still very much a kid. She likes to have fun, but she knows.
Her doing Paula Abdul video.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, she's still a little girl,
right?
Exactly.
And with the dumbwaiter and everything like that,
right?
It was just, I mean, like that's obviously a decision. Like, of course, an adult would say, like, oh no, like that's too dangerous. But she's a kid. Of course she would let her brother play with it.
But then also knowing 100%, oh, this is some trouble we got into, so I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to figure out how to fix this, you know?
Exactly.
Now, when it turns into adult Theo, at first when I found out she was living at Cheryl's house, I was like, oh, is this some weird coping thing? But it didn't take me very long. It doesn't take me to the end, like when it's explained to Cheryl, that she wasn't staying there for herself. It became very obvious that Cheryl had no one and nothing in her life. And that as her sister and as someone who just doesn't care for having many people in her life to begin with, she just decided, well, it's, you know, it's no extra work on my part. I'll just stay here.
Well, she didn't have a very much of a connection to family, but then also Cheryl was holding on to the secret, which we find out later, and so it was just disconnecting her in general. And I don't know that Theo knew the secret, but she definitely knew that there was a huge wall up, which he talks about a few times during the series.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it's a wall that Cheryl's always pulled up since they, left the house.
I think that's part of it, but I
how
think we're supposed to infer that.
She even has to remind Cheryl, like, what happens when I touch things. Something Nell had no problem believing.
Yes.
And it seems like pretty much everyone in the house knew what was going on in terms of in terms of Theo. But then, and they were okay with it. But then after Hill House, it's like anything supernatural gets blocked out.
But that's kind of, and that's, we'll talk about that in just a second. Because we're going to talk about the kids as the 5 stages and just the 5 stages in terms of just the show in general. Yeah, one thing that I really appreciated that they did is when Theo, that we didn't get this whole like sexual abuse trauma from Theo, especially being the queer character, when she went and found out about the smiley faced dude. She was like, this kid has had so much trauma that she created her own ghost, her own golem. And, but that wasn't a manifest of Theo's own trauma, like she didn't have any kind of like sexual nonsense in her background. And I was glad that they steered clear away from them. They're like, oh no, she's pretty well adjusted, all things considered. And she, like when it comes to these kids and it comes to this job, she knows what she's doing. So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. For me, I did like Theo as a kid. I liked Steven as a kid. I found, I found him interesting because I know from the very beginning, I kind of thought, I was like, I noticed right away that he didn't seem to be in a lot of the flashbacks with the kids. He always seemed to be missing. And it wasn't really until the later episodes that he kind of started popping up with them. And even then it was kind of few and far between. But when he did show up, it was always in that capacity of like, I'm the oldest and, I want to try to take care of things. And I always thought it was a very interesting kind of juxtaposition between trying to be a fixer, but always kind of being thwarted, especially because his dad, and we'll get to this, but his dad, his whole thing was like, I got to fix things. I got to fix it. I'll fix it. Don't worry. I'll fix it. And Steven kind of coming in and just not being able to do anything right. But God bless him for trying. Like, he brings in the fan and his dad's like, I told you to unplug the fan. And Steven's like, well, I did. But of course, the ghost unplugs it or whatever. I can't remember if the ghost unplugged it or if they got distracted and he just forgot to unplug it or something. Some shenanigans happened. And of course, Hugh's hand gets all sliced up. And then later when he tries to make the present for his mom and he paints the vanity and then she like puts her hand through it and Steven's just like, oh my God, what is happening? This is why I don't do anything, and he just completely shuts down. And I thought it was just, when you see him, especially at the beginning, where he's like, I'm the oldest kid, and then you see his dad, like, literally pick him up and be like, close your eyes. You are going to kind of be like the baby here. Like, I need you to be the child, and I need you to kind of shrink and do what I say. And it's just really moving to me. So I really liked his character.
And the way those events you just described translate into adult version of him, is perfection.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I thought the way that, but it made me hate him. Yeah, and I was like,
Right?
God dang you, Stephen, why?
Not even just perfection, I think. It's more like Steven had this giant hole
Yeah.
in his brain about that night. And what did he try to do?
About that
he tried
summer.
to fix it
Yeah.
with the book. He wanted to fix that hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he wrote about it. He wanted to fix people's lives that were broken by loss in that regard.
That I actually have a little bit of an opposite take when it comes to his family. He stopped trying to fix things with his brothers and sisters and just checked out.
Oh yeah, no, this wasn't for their benefit. This was for his.
Emotionally.
Yeah. Right,
Like,
right.
before he was all about the kids, hanging out with his brother, giving advice and stuff like that. He was a pretty good big brother. But then when you get to older Steve, it's just kind of like, well, can y'all handle it?
Well, he kind of throws money at it, and then he gets to the point where he's like, how can I handle this as detached as possible? Because he can't afford to spend any more emotions on it.
Right.
My favorite adult, God dang it. I love Nell. She broke my heart. Her episode was the one that just broke me. That was the one where at the end of the episode, I literally just sat back. I was with my niece and I looked at her and I was like, what? And my niece was like, I know. And I was just like, what? I was like, where do we go from here? What just happened? And I mean, I guess that's as good of a segue as any to actually talk about God, Nell. So the whole thing is kind of predicated on her death. Allegedly, she goes to the house and commits suicide. And basically a large part of the show is gathering all the family to go to her funeral. But then we see the events that kind of lead up to her dying and what caused them and all the hauntings and stuff that kind of led up to it. What the actual history of her dying is. So of course we have these ghosts in this house, and there are a few standouts that are notable. So to start out with, a big one is, Luke, Olivia finds this bowler hat. Or does Luke find it? Luke finds a bowler hat, is that right?
Olivia and Hugh find it, and Luke spots it and asks if he can have it.
So he's wearing this bowler hat and running around in it, yada, yada, yada. Well, there is this huge, tall ghost with a cane, and he's walking through the house, and he kind of glides through the house, but then he still uses the cane. So you're gunk, 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 every time he goes around. And one night he comes into Luke's room, and then and Luke hides under the bed. And they have this whole thing about, the best way to scare off ghosts, or the best way to hide from ghosts, is to count to 7. You can do it several times, but you have to count to 7. And they say there are 7 hill kids. There's 7 steps between Luke and Nelly's bed, and there are all these kind of different 7 motifs in the show. But Luke is under the bed and he's counting to 7. The ghost comes in, he grabs his hat, he's about to leave. Poor Luke makes a noise, and that stinking ghost hears him and then bends over and looks under that bed. I was done. I was like, I can't do it. And when Luke started screaming, I wasn't even looking at the screen. I was like, nope. And so, speaking of which, that's a good question to ask. When would y'all have been out of this house? I know we talked about this, but...
The dogs and that storm.
Yes.
That nobody else in the damn city felt.
Oh my God. That blew out all those windows. First of all, okay, so then they had that entire night where Nelly was gone. Nelly was gone. And she was like, I was standing here the whole time and nobody saw me. And I was standing here screaming and no one said anything. That night, we would have all been to see Aunt Janet. Like, Aunt Janet, do you have room for 7? We are all about to get on a plane.
It's do not help. They're so hysterically dumb when they're crying about this stuff. It's like, do you take it seriously?
No, they're kids.
Put them in bed?
They are children. Of course. Oh, my God.
Like when the knocking happens in Theo and Cheryl's room?
Yes.
Cheryl is not that young, and she cannot explain to her dad that was not water pipe.
They are babies.
Different walls and knock stuff down.
You couldn't explain that now. We are grown-ups. If I hear that now, I'm like, is that a washing machine or is that a ghost? We got some problems. I would call my landlord. Leave them alone.
I never understood how Olivia is so into the occult and that she didn't have charms or anything.
Well, I don't think she's into the occult. Well, her thing is she doesn't really have a belief. She just finds it all equally interesting. I think that she accepts that she has a gift that's a little bit different, but I don't think she believes in an origin for it. She doesn't believe in a mysticism to it. She just thinks like, oh, energy in the storm and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That would make sense, except at some point in the story, they say that her mother had the same issues.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think there's never been a time where she's like, we're witches. You know, she's just like, this is just something that some people have. And my mother had it and it must be genetic. Oh, well, you know, like some people can just do this.
I think that it's sort of like a difference between believing and knowing.
Yes.
Where it's like, this is just her reality. Like, it's not like I believe this to be true or anything like that. It's just like, this is something that's always existed in my life and my grandmother's life or whatever. And it's just something that I live with or whatever, you know?
No offense, but it just sounds like this really white person thing to like have no acknowledgement of the old religion. Because I can tell you in my family, if any of that crap started happening, we'd know exactly where to run to.
Well, Greyhound's girl was like, as soon as we saw the faces on the door knockers, we'd be like, you got to change those out.
As soon as you like, we knew that there were groundskeepers. Gone. Just gone.
I told you as soon as they were like, there ain't no dogs in here. Nope, we got to go. We got to go. Oh, Lord. I do, and just all the stories where they're like, I took care of Mrs. Hill. She was super duper old and she died in this bed and she had this crazy phone. And then the whole story about Joe Hill, how he was, because I thought for a second that Poppy killed Joe and then paved him into the wall. I didn't think that the story about him paving himself in was true because I was like, that's crazy. But then they're like, oh no, that happened. You're like, he paved himself in and then they just left him in there.
And you're like, and he did what?
Right. And then they paved it over. And then they're like, there ain't no room there.
Don't tell the kids.
Right.
Is Mrs. Dudley looks like she's a little bit, maybe 5 years older or younger than Olivia.
Yeah, she's not that much older than him. Her.
And the pictures of Poppy and all of these people are from like the 1920s.
Okay, so yeah, Poppy is older than... So, Poppy... Okay, so the house belonged to Mrs. Hill, Joe Hill's mother. Poppy was Poppy Mrs. Hill's daughter? No, Joe was Mrs. Hill's son. And then, I think...
Poppy's the girl he met at the mental institution and came back married with.
Yes, and came back married with. And so, Lord, they could have really just been crazy. That could have happened at any time. Although the son couldn't walk, so I'm guessing that was polio. So I'm guessing that was like 30s.
And so... Clara was alive when these two came back.
No. Because Clara didn't know Poppy and them. Clara didn't know them.
No, she said she knew Poppy.
No.
She didn't know the young Poppy. She knew the old Poppy.
Did she? I thought she knew old. She knew old. I didn't think she knew old Poppy. Do you guys remember?
You see, which is what struck me weird with this timeline.
But that could still...
The Dudleys should not be alive or know as much as they do.
Oh, well, no. I mean, they should definitely know as the groundskeeper, especially if...
How old had this house been...
Well, wait, okay, so Poppy...
Empty.
If Poppy was... Okay, so let's just say that, like, in 1930. Let's say in 1930, Poppy was, what's a good age? 20. And she lived to be, 70? I don't know. That's 50 years. Yeah, 80s. And then Clara came in. That would make sense. It would make Clara a little bit older, but yeah, a little bit older. So yeah, that could still work out. Although I thought she said another person, but it could have been Poppy. But yeah, I do like that the groundskeepers never stayed at night. Now, what I didn't figure out, and actually my niece figured this out way before me, I thought Abigail was fake. I thought homie was imaginary.
No, I knew, as, like, when they weren't showing her, I was like, she's real.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
No, but we saw her like a handful of times.
What? No, but shoot, what?
No.
We've seen everyone a handful of times.
Like, they're far shots, but we see him sitting down with her, and there's one scene where she looks kind of dirty.
But nobody else
comes out of the woods.
acknowledged her. Yeah, no one else acknowledged her.
I thought she was a freaking ghost, though.
No.
Yeah. I thought that's what I mean. I thought that she was fake. Like, I thought she was a ghost.
No.
I thought she was already dead.
Because it was just too on the nose for her to be a ghost.
Because
like,
then...
Yeah, so the shots where we didn't see her, and then the shots where we did, it was purposely, like, obscured or weird. And I was just like, if they're going to show us, I feel like it would be scarier if she was actually... Like, if she was a ghost... It would be scarier to, like, have her be, like, creepy. You know what I mean? Like, show her.
Well, it wasn't until the tea party. And then I was like, and then I said, she doesn't look creepy. And I was like, is she doing that for Luke's sake? Kind of the way that Poppy did for Olivia. But then I was like, that seems like a lot of energy to be expelling. But then when she drank the tea and I was like, oh, wait, no. Ooh, oh no. But then I said, but then who is she? And then she was like, that's Clara's kid. And then I remembered that conversation, but I was like, that's really messed up. Because I was like, then that's 2 kids that this house is taking from her. Which, and then that's the other thing. After my first baby, I would never work at this house again. And they're like, well, we just don't go there after night. No, I would never go there again. I would leave the East Coast. Like, no, there's just nothing you could do that would make me stay there. That was crazy. Ugh. Okay, so there is a theory that each of the kids represents one of the 5 stages of grief. And I thought that this was a very interesting perspective. Of course, denial is Stephen. Anger is Shirley, because she just stays mad. Bargaining is Theo. And I actually liked that one a lot. I really, really liked because of course I was like, please don't be kissing her husband. And I was like, that's so cliche. And I was about to be very upset with the show for going there, but I loved her explanation for why she did it, or for why she was attempting to. And
so why Pale reacts the way she does is perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a Cheryl thing. It's such a
so over the top, and I was just like, she should know better than most how those situations happen. But then you're like, so then why is she so damn upset? And then you find out, and it's like, oh.
Well, but see,
she can't accept it herself.
Well, that's another thing. I guess we can just talk about that now. So that was actually one of the things that I had personally considered it a misstep, although I understood completely why they did it. And now I actually do appreciate it a little bit more, although I think they dragged it out a little bit too long. And that was the dude from One Tree Hill who kept saluting her with a drink throughout the entire episode. I was like, who is this dude? And they finally showed it, and he wasn't a ghost, or rather, he was a ghost from Cheryl's past. 6 years ago, she had gone to a convention and had been tempted by a gentleman to go upstairs to his hotel room and have an affair with her husband. And in her mind, when she's replaying this in her head, she's like, of course, I was a virtuous woman. But in real life, she went right on upstairs with him and has been holding on to this for years. And because of that, has really, who's Nathan Scott?
No spoilers, Bellfire. I haven't caught up yet.
Oh, no.
I know it's been like 15 years, but...
What show?
One Tree Hill.
Oh, Lord. I need you to get it together.
I used to ship Lucas and Nathan so bad back then.
And so, and then of course it informs Cheryl's everything. She's just so angry and she can't accept anything, and she's just racked with guilt that just manifests into this huge anger ball. And so I'm just really, I have come definitely to appreciate that. Depression is Luke. He can never get it right, and it's literally not his fault. And there's just nothing to be done about it. And it's just life dealing him a crappy hand when he shows Steven.
Steven and Cheryl tell Luke the worst things you could tell an addict.
Yes.
Not just once. Over
and over.
And it's just like, might as well just stick the needle in his arm for him. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's what made me hate them so much. That was one of the things that made me hate them so much, was the way that...
But when family has no idea how to react or how to help you, or their solution for helping you is doing like Steven and Cheryl did, throwing money at you and then just hoping that you get it together, and it's like, that doesn't work. It's like, you need to be there.
And that's hard too, because that girl, as someone who had been in recovery longer, should have recognized what was going on and put a stop to it, but instead
she was using him.
She used him. Even in the very beginning when she was sober too, she knew better.
Yeah.
She wanted to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That girl, that was rough, man. As soon as she hugged Luke, I was like, oh man, you ain't never gonna see her again. And that just...
I felt so bad about that relationship just in general.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was good about it was, like, he desperately wanted to help her.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it never seemed to be just to, like, be like an, oh, I love you. It was never explicitly, like, super romantic. It was just this desperate, I want to care for someone, and it seemed more like I need someone to do this for me.
Yeah.
It looks like that from the outside. From the inside, it's a very... I need you to prove to me that I can do this.
Yeah. Well, even...
And so, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you stay sober, because if you stay sober, I can stay sober.
Right.
But it's also, additionally, even just in tying it back in, Luke is the consummate kind of baby, and everybody is always kind of looking out for Luke. And even Nelly, in her kind of desperation, I think even with this connection with Luke, where he's trying so hard to take care of this girl, I wonder if there's a part of him that is trying to take care of Nelly in kind of the subconscious mode. Because you remember when he was in the treehouse, he was drawing those pictures, and he was specifically drawing them of Bent Neck Lady. Like, he knew that was coming. He knew that horror, but he probably just didn't know what to do with it. And so it's like he knows that there's something he needs to protect, but he doesn't know how to. And so it's just, what do you do? It's fight or flight. And he's just like, I'm going to do both. and that, of course, never works. And then, of course, Nelly is acceptance kind of towards the end, which I really thought... Now, one thing that kind of upsets me during the reviews of this is they keep saying, oh, well, Nelly committed suicide. Mama was straight up murdered. Like, there was no suicide. Mama was murdered. And that's what made it especially harrowing and really kind of, on like an existential level, really kind of sad. We talked about, what was her husband's name? Arthur. What was the last name?
I don't remember.
If someone remembers her last name, put it in the chat, please. But because that was her name in the books. They used her last name as her married last name. Vance, thank you. So it's Nelly Vance. When she meets Arthur, we stopped seeing Bent Neck Lady. And it's not until Arthur dies from the aneurysm that she makes a reappearance. And I was reading like the different theories about it and about why something like that happened. And someone was like, well, she was fated to always be Bent Neck Lady, but Arthur changed that fate, and it made it so that her life kind of took a different path. And through those kind of sad circumstances, then it put her right back on her own path for her own crazy fate. And that's when, she stopped taking her meds, and she, her psychiatrist, and just all that mess. Where
she put herself in that path herself to save her siblings.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So Arthur had taken her off that path where she was just like, I'm going to be independent. I'm going to live my own life and kind of do my own thing. Because she had been dealing with sleep paralysis, which I've never had to deal with, but I know people have had to deal with it, and it just sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I was so glad that he was there to help her with that. But it just, it just broke my heart for her that she was just so close to just kind of having this normal existence. And then, just one thing just sends it all off kilter. And you look at the times that Bent Neck Lady kind of had dropped in on her. And the one especially, oh Lord, and this is where we're going to talk about Luke. When he made Nelly go and help him get well. He said, get well so many times. And I was like, Luke, I love you, but I'll punch you in the face. I was like, I can't with this scene.
That was his lowest point.
It was just
in the show.
Devastating. It was devastating. They did such a good job with that. And I mean, it just plucked every heartstring. it did exactly what it needed to do. And when she saw Bet Neck Lady there, and then later when Bet Neck Lady sees her there, and I was just like, God dang, what do you do? What do you do? So yeah, that killed me. That killed me.
Low's point was when he leaves rehab to go to her wedding. Supposedly.
Yeah.
And he's already high.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you didn't really leave for your sister. You know, you used as an excuse. And then once you were out, using was the thing that flashed into your mind, and you went and did that. And then you just came to your sister's wedding to make yourself feel better about leaving rehab and getting high the first thing.
And then, of course, Nelly was like, I wish I would have seen him. And then again, like, just getting away from that life. And finally just being like, I can finally move on. Oh, that was the other thing about just their odd denial. It's like, y'all grew up in this craziness. And then for it to take them so long to acknowledge anything that happened. So, like, we were talking about Theo, and it wasn't until Nell's wedding that they figure out that Theo is a lesbian. And I was like, really? And then Dad's like, oh yeah, me and your mom knew the whole time. We picked up on it like a long time ago. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Like, God dang.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
You know what I don't understand? Later we find out that Aunt Janet is the one who raised all the kids. They don't really go deep into why.
For like a year. I think it was for a year.
Like a year the first time, but then the kids make it seem like they had no relationship with the father whatsoever.
I think they were estranged from him, but yeah.
Was he then raising them with Aunt Janet, but he was just checked out?
Yeah,
I think he was super checked out.
Yeah, and I think it was like he was raising them with Aunt Janet.
Yeah.
Or near them.
I don't think that at that point he had created his mental version of Olivia yet. I think that was like a later development because like they would have noticed.
Do you think she was a mental version of Olivia, or do you think it was the singer Olivia because she was with him?
No, that was a mental. She says it a few times because she's like, this apparition is only one-sided. She said something along the lines of, I only say what you think I would say. I don't actually say like what I would say in the situation. And it's not until he gets to the house and sees Olivia that you actually like get the resistance.
It's a piece.
That was another thing that killed me, was seeing Olivia's just 100% delusion and Nelly knowing that she had been duped. Nelly knowing that she had been deceived, and then trying to keep Luke away and trying to keep everyone else away. And even at her funeral, when the mom was trying to pull him into the grave, and Nelly's like, don't. And she's like, go. And it wasn't like, don't go. It was don't, period, go, period. Or exclamation even. And then later when they're in the red room having the tea party of little Nelly, and she's like, don't go. And it's just like, oh my God, that was wild. Yeah.
Can we talk about episode 6?
Which, okay, yeah. Go ahead. You can start it.
So, episode 6 is possibly the most entertaining episode of television I have possibly, and not even entertaining, just emotionally devastating, heartbreaking, real, just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable episode of television. I had like chills the whole time. I I was watching it on my way to work, and I was like, I had to like keep in the tears on the train because it was so devastating and just so beautifully well done. I just like I will never get over that episode, and I will never not be able to compare that episode to other great television shows that I watch.
Now tell us the synopsis.
So it's sort of two bottle episodes intertwined. It's half in the past, half in the present. And in the past, it's called Two Storms, I believe. And there are two storms going on, both physically and emotionally. Basically, in the past, the electricity goes out in the house, and Nelly goes missing. And they do this entire sequence, essentially. It's like 40 minutes long or something absolutely incredible like that, where it's just them running through the house, trying to find her, trying to find Olivia when she goes missing, doing crazy stuff. It's just one continuous shot.
And the way they filmed it was pretty amazing too.
Amazing.
Yeah. They had to plot everything out, specifically with the cameras, because they had a lot of swooping kind of overhead shots. They had to build special cranes and just all this other stuff. But then even something so simple as, the camera would be turning around and then the adults would run out and then the kids would run in, and Nelly would run out and then Nelly would run in and jump in the casket, jump out of the casket, that kind of thing. It was really well done.
Yeah, and in the future, it's storming outside again, but they're all seeing the body as Cheryl has dressed up Nell in the funeral home. And this is the first time that the vast majority of them are seeing her for the first time, having passed. And when Hugh walks in, there's this sweeping shot where, it's him. You see him in the shot, and then it swoops around from his perspective, and he's looking at his kids, and they're the kid actors, and that part sent me on a ride.
Yeah.
It was so emotional because that's what he sees.
Yeah.
And that's what he sees when he looks at the casket, too. He doesn't see grown Nell. He sees a child, his children. And that was just so heartbreaking to me. And the storms metaphorically are just them fighting. Over any little thing, over Steve's book and over, Theo living with them and taking money, things like that. Just all of these sort of stupid little things that keep adding up. And
Olivia tells a great story about that later, about how one day she was angry about something, and then there was a storm that brewed up, and there was this hail, and there were these small black stones, and one even hit either her mother or her father in the head, and it was causing them to bleed. And she was like, I caused that storm, but it was like a child's thought. And she said it wasn't something that she thought was weird until she grew up. And, then actually had to justify it and put it away. But it explained that scene kind of beautifully, the way that chaos that they created just through their anger.
Yeah. And then just the scene like you had mentioned earlier with, I was here the whole time, but no one could hear me.
Oh, it's killing me.
And then it does the sweeping shot, and you see her as this ghoul, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so heartbreaking because that's, obviously when the casket breaks and stuff like that, that's her trying to say, hey, I'm here,
Well, it's like this call of what are you guys paying attention to? What are you fighting about? What are you really arguing about? Because actually you're all devastated. You are all extremely sad, but you're fighting over this petty nonsense, which is why the episode 7 jump scare was so effective and so great. They said that while they were filming it, they had it scripted out. And so even within the script, there was a certain time it was supposed to happen. And they had talked with Nell's actress and, you know, kind of secretly with her, they were like, you know, just kind of pop out when you feel it, you know? And she did. And they said everybody behind the monitors were like jumped and like everybody freaked out. And it was just a perfect moment. And that's the one thing that everybody collectively, they're like, it was earned, and it made complete sense the way that they did it, because it was just that ongoing wake-up call where it was like, you have to get this together. You have to reset and make this happen. The fact of them all going back to this stupid house, like, this is the last thing you guys need to do. What are you doing? But of course,
I won't lie, that scream, that scare, usually I just kind of tense up in those, like, you know, those shock moments, and that'll be it. But I actually screamed out.
Yes.
Like, oh. I tensed up. Tiger went crazy. Jumping around and yapping. My mom ran across the house.
Oh, no!
To my side and was like, What's wrong? And she couldn't even hear me over Tiger barking. It was ridiculous.
I knew something was coming, but it just, the timing of it just caught me completely off guard. Me and my niece, we screamed so loud. Like, it was great. It was just cathartic. Did you scream, Ethan?
I didn't know.
Oh.
It's been. I don't think I've ever screamed from something scary.
Oh
in a
my
movie.
God!
But I did definitely tense up.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
You know, I more than likely gasped. Yeah, it was a good one. It was such a good one. And I respect it when they get you like that. And I was like, you know what? I was like, job well done. I was like, you got me. My blood was pumping. But it was so needed to break that tension.
Yes.
And then it's sort of like, that's the climax of the tension, and then it just cascades, because that's when the monologue happens with
yes. But then it lulls you into a false sense of security, because you're like, all right, we're back on the same page. And then you get to that house and Luke lights that match and throws it on the carpet, and it's like whoosh. And then Poppy shows up behind her shoulder. You're like, oh, god dang, here we go.
People were thinking that it was Poppy that put out the fire, and it's entirely possible, but the actress for Olivia said that it was Olivia that did it.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like,
I just thought it was the house. I thought it was the house in general. Like, you ain't gonna burn me.
Yeah, same.
What's wrong
same.
with you? Now,
I would really like, even if they don't do a sequel, whatever team worked together to make this, they work really freaking well together.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to see whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They said that there's a sequel, and I'm still here for this, but they said if there's a sequel, it'll be a different family. And I'm still here for that. They were like, this family been through enough. And I was like, you know what? I thank you. we can let this family have their rest.
I would just kill for like a 1950s setting.
Ooh, I can't deal with that.
What?
I can't deal with that. I need them to have cell phones. I need them to be able to research.
I need some greasers.
Right.
I need
some ghost facers.
I end up with the jog.
Right.
I'm just kidding. But like in all honesty, I would love to see.
But yes, whoever replaces the Dudleys needs to have a hot, strapping young son.
Yes.
Who meets this wonderful, intellectual, artistic guy that's just moving into the manor, and they just can't keep their eyes off each other. Strapping young son is dead.
Oh no. Yes.
But they have ghost sex.
Lord, what a mess.
I am okay with that. Yes.
Remember when Witches of East End or Eastwick? That Lifetime witches show that lasted for 2 seasons?
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, the first season, it was like, it's kind of like Passion style of a show. But then the next season went full on fanfic with tentacle sex and everything.
Oh, wow.
What?
Yeah.
Doctor Sleep. I don't know that one. All right, so I want to talk about the Red Room. The Red Room was amazing to me. So,
yes.
One thing that they did fantastically in this is that the Red Room from the beginning was something that I was questioning but didn't even know I was questioning. I've been reading these books called, they're by Joe Hill, and it's about it's about a house that's like this, and I'm wondering if it's slightly related or if it's loosely based, but it's this, the only reason I'm saying reading, it's on Audible, and it has a multicast, and so I like listening to those because it's kind of like listening to a play or whatever. But this one's kind of rough. It's very misogynistic. But basically there is these keys that open these different rooms, and all these different rooms have different things in them that are kind of supernatural and blah, blah, blah. And so when they were talking about the Red Room, I immediately thought of that. And so, now I didn't make the connection of the Red Room being these different rooms, but I noticed right away when she said, when she was like, oh, I found this in the toy room. And then Clara was like, toy room? And then I was like, wait a minute, like, Hefe, you work there. What do you mean toy room, question mark? You know?
That sort of went whoosh for me. A lot of the Red Room stuff just went whoosh right over my head.
That's the only,
It was
that's...
weird to me until we get to reading room.
Well, okay, wait, first, that's the one that got me, and then Steven's, when he has the vanity, and he says, I found it in the game room. And then she's like, game room? And so I was like, okay, how do we have... So then at that point, I said, oh, are the game room and the toy room the same room? So later when they showed it, I was looking for Nelly's toy box in that room. And I was like, well, her toy box isn't in this room. But I was like, how many rooms does Stupid House have? And I was like, oh, 1,000,000. And so, so then they made the reveal, the one that really tripped me out. Okay, so of course we get to the reveal and we find out that, okay, so wait, first, we get to Steven. Steven and Dad are driving, and he was like, you're the worst one, Steven, because you've been seeing ghosts, but you're so in denial that you don't even understand. And he's like, what do you mean I've been seeing ghosts? Da-da-da-da. He was like, well, first of all, you know this clockmaker with this old-timey handlebar mustache and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, what about him? He was like, well, and he gives this whole lesson on old clocks and how they have witness marks, and it takes a lot to repair a clock, and you have to do all this stuff. And of course, it was all metaphorical and very important stuff that I probably should have listened to more. But the entire point was, he was like, yeah, I didn't hire anyone to fix that clock. He was like, I don't care about that clock. He's like, it was expensive. And especially not any dude in some handlebar mustache. And Steven was like, Bazoo? And then he was like, and also, we were only staying there for the summer. I didn't have time to build your brother a tree house. Now, that's what tripped me out. Now, first of all, that treehouse looked crazy to me because I was like, this treehouse looks humongous. So I said, what tree is holding up this treehouse? And then what also kind of tripped me out is they showed Steven coming into it with like a door. And I was like, how is this? Right.
Yeah.
And I said,
you know what makes more sense now?
Right.
When Steven says, I don't know why mom never looks for you in your treehouse. That's where you always are anyway.
Yeah.
Well, but even in the kitchen when he was like, have you looked for Luke? He's probably in his treehouse. And then Olivia says, very funny, mister. Because there is no treehouse. So it's like, what?
I just thought it was like very funny he shouldn't be up there on his own or something. Like
yeah.
that. I had no idea.
They laid that all out.
Yes.
They had the cards faced
right.
up.
They had the red string. There was like bing, bing.
This show had a lot of secrets that it wanted you to discover at certain points.
Yes.
But it didn't try to stretch it further
Yes.
to stretch it. It was like,
No.
at this second you need to know this, followed by these flashbacks for it all to make sense, because we don't want you confused for an episode and a half.
Exactly.
Not paying attention to anything else.
And it didn't make you feel dumb. It just made you feel like, oh, that was it was fun. And like
It made the writers feel smart.
Experience.
yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it made the writers feel smart. It didn't make you feel dumb.
Exactly.
Which is so easy to fuck up.
As we know. Exactly.
Unlike our other show that we review on here.
Right.
Where it's like, come up with a bunch of mess, then 3 episodes later, oh, I think I like that one thing that we picked out of the mess. Let's make that a thing. And it's like, but it doesn't match up with anything else that happens in the episodes in between, but okay.
And then what I also loved was when we do get the reveal, because they show the things that we thought were hauntings were this red door just kind of manifesting itself where, you know, the knob would jiggle. And then we had Theo on the other side in her dance studio look at the knob like, who is that? And then it's really Nelly and Cheryl on the other side trying to test the key. And it's just like, it's not working. And so, and I loved how each room looks so completely different, but you have that window that kind of grounds them all together. And so, Philip, you said that you noticed it when you saw the reading room, is that kind of when it came together for you? You mean that episode?
Yes, because she tells the kids that she's going to go to her reading room, and the other kids are like, what reading room?
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of waves it off. That was too many times where rooms are mentioned.
Right.
That get blown off. And I think that one finally hit me, and I'm like, huh. And by that time, I was looking for some kind of time-space continuum thing going on.
Yeah. And I think at that point, everyone thought Olivia was crazy. So I was just like, oh, crazy Liv.
At that point, my thought was that Olivia had killed all of the kids.
Oh, no!
And that she was just reliving, like, their lives there, while the kids' spirits were off wandering, really haunting other people, but, like, living lives.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Poppy had her messed up when she was like, you just got to get them well. I was like, oh, Lord.
I swear, the minute she started doing that weird-ass shit, like the windows breaking, the minute that the dad saw her walking around but not responding to anything, it should have been, get in the car, go to your sister, she'll understand.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But Mama didn't even get on the plane.
Instead, they waited how many days?
They waited a while, but then when they saw Mama in the thing talking about she's in the kitchen making hot chocolate, I was like, what? No. That was another thing that I did call from the beginning. As soon as I saw that rat poison, I was like, that's going in the tea. She gonna kill them babies. I was like, I saw that Munchausen for proxy.
When I saw you just leave the rat poison in the basement, I'm like,
yep.
You locked that shit up.
That is Chekhov's gun.
Exactly. I said that's going off in the in the third act.
That's exactly right.
Oh, but they were talking about the shared delusions. How do Stephen? They were talking about how do Stephen and Luke have the same delusion, and then like Nell and Cheryl of this red room. And I really thought that was interesting because Stephen, of course, is denial. And so to him, it's not a delusion because it doesn't exist. So he would be able to kind of go in and out of this and it wouldn't be anything weird. He would be able to see it just fine. And then Nell and Cheryl, Cheryl has those cats, she takes them to the family room, which of course is her red room where she raises those cats. Ooh, those poor sad kittens. God dang. That was rough. The poor little girl.
Yeah.
That's when Cheryl, oh God, that poor girl. But
that was Hugh's fault too. Hugh kept making stupid decisions because he felt guilty that they were dragging their kids all over the place, and it's like, you're setting your kids up.
Well, no, but that wasn't his fault. He didn't know that they were going to be haunted kitties.
Okay, even if they hadn't been haunted, they would have had something. They
wouldn't have.
You don't just grab a cow from outside in the alley and be like, "Oh, here, baby."
Sure, you do. They're little babies.
No, you take it to the vet.
God.
It would have been. They didn't know they was haunted baby kitties.
No.
Yes.
That's right. You don't know what's wrong with them.
That's true.
One thing that you mentioned was, Stephen going in Luke's red room.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Luke was making was a no girls allowed sign.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, now knowing that the red room was there to sort of digest them.
Uh-huh.
And sort of their essence and things like that. I'm wondering if that was like purposeful, like he was making like a no girls allowed sign, and Steve was allowed in because it wanted to digest just the boys at that point in time.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I do wonder about. They were talking about. Oh God, what was it? I just had and it just left me. I know, right? The show was amazing. It was something about Stephen. Oh, I loved, and I actually called it when, but I loved the way that they did it. When they were in the red room and so they talked about why didn't Hugh have a red room?
Yes.
And they were like, well, the red room was kind of your happy place. It was a distraction, a place that you could go to kind of be like, hey, look over here. And so kind of your happy place. And Hugh's happy place is fixing things. And so really his red room was kind of the basement and fixing the mold, which was produced by the red room, and that kind of thing. And so that was kind of, and then of course, not being able to get into the red room ended up being his own red room, just not being able to get in.
Interesting. That's an interesting take. Was that canon or was that?
Oh, I don't know if that's canon. I just saw some theories and then just kind of adding my own thoughts to it.
I mean, if we go by the movie, he tells them that being with the kids is the happiest time of his life. So being with his kids was what made him the happiest, and he was already there.
I saw it as that the kids and Olivia were psychic, and that was a hungry house, and it wanted to feed on some psychics. And it didn't really have anything that it wanted from Hugh. It was like, I'm not going to get anything from Hugh because he's a less tasty snack.
Well, one thing that's also interesting is that the house seems to favor the women and the mothers in particular. And I think that is a Poppy thing. I think that's a Clara thing, that kind of thing. Because the Miss Poppy and Clara, they tried to get her originally, and that's why they stopped going there at night, because Clara was starting to go crazy. And she was just like, look here.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, I think Poppy has this thing where she just wants to make women as miserable as she is.
Well, she's just crazy. Yeah.
On top of the fact that she's crazy, you know what I mean? She's like criminally insane. But the whole powers thing plays into it as well. I always got the feeling that the house could really care less about Hugh. He was more of an obstacle than anything else.
Yeah. And that's why it was like, it had all of these problems with it and everything like that, because, you know, it was just like, oh, well.
It was trying to keep him busy.
Yeah, I wonder.
Well, I feel like Hugh, I feel like Hugh is like the maintenance man for the most haunted place on earth. He's just, he comes in, he clocks out, he goes home. He's kind of like Mr. Dudley. No one ever bothered Mr. Dudley.
The character that I hated the most.
Who did? Who is?
Really?
I hated Hugh the most.
I liked Hugh. Younger Hugh kind of drove me crazy sometimes. But he was a Stephen. Hugh and Stephen were so perfectly matched. And the thing was... Yeah, it was crazy. Oh, but what I was going to say was when they had their Red Room delusions. And especially and I loved how they were all kind of caused by Poppy. And so they started out like kind of sane, and then they just went off the rails. And especially with Stephen's wife being pregnant.
It was the best.
That was amazing. I don't think he had an affair. I think that was either Nell or his mom that he saw through the window, and I think that's what freaked him out. But yeah, I loved all of that. And so I was just like, and I liked the 2 years later, we got, kind of happy endings. Luke was 2 years sober. Sure, Theo and her little lady got married. And Cheryl was happy with her husband. And Stephen and his wife were pregnant. Good times. And then I knew that Daddy was dead. I did know that, but I thought that Mama was gonna like push him off the edge. I didn't think that it was just gonna be like overdosing on heart pills. I thought she was gonna take him out the way she did everybody else.
And then of course the theory. Not the theory, but what they almost went with for the canon ending was a zoom out from the scene with the cake. That was supposed to be a zoom out from the Red Room.
And then the Red Room. Yeah, they were going to have a vertical window, and then they were like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, they were like, we've put these people through so much, including the audience. We are not doing that. And I was like, Thank God.
you.
Go through more. Like Luke having children and having it all messed up. They could go through more. Crap, I was gonna say something.
I'll think about it. And we'll come back. I loved this show. I thought it was so well done. I thought it was it was perfectly accessible. It was a good watch. It was just heartbreaking in all the right places. It was thought-provoking. Someone was like, they said, Haunting of Hill House is This Is Us with ghosts. Prove me wrong. And I was like, I can't prove you wrong.
I've never seen This Is Us.
It's wild. It's just over dramatic, just ridiculous. But, it's just that whole thing where it's like, this is a family drama. This is what happens when you have, because like, I don't know what I would do. I think there's, because I was thinking about, I told this to Alicia, I said, if I ever write our family story and it makes a ton of money, you better just take this check and be happy. Like, if I make us rich, you better be real happy. And I was like, what are they so angry about? Or what are they so mad about? They're like, oh, you're just printing all these lies. I'm like, well, they lies? What are you mad about? Like, take the money. They're like, this is blood money. It's blood money. And I'm like, girl, it's money. Take this money. And so I was like, but, of course, I've never been in that situation where, like, someone has taken my story and profited from it. But I'm like, I'd be okay.
No, but, I mean, I get it. They were paparazzi fodder for years.
Well, that's what
social media. And so I'm sure in their minds they're thinking, you're going to write this book at the core of social media, and it's all going to come back.
Yeah.
Because you know how, like, when books like that come out, then the real case comes back into the forefront again, and it gets wild.
Because that's the crazy thing, especially when they were like, oh God, when Nelly was like, when she went to Stephen's book reading, and was like, you weren't there, and she's saying all these arguments that aren't really her arguments, they're really Cheryl's, or other people's that she's heard. This is when she's like at the height of being off of her meds, and she just kind of has this mania about her. And you're just like, what are you doing, Nelly? And this is when, like, before she goes to the house and you can see her spiraling down where, she's going to get into this mindset where she's definitely going to this house. And it's just, it's just so much. It's so much.
I just can't imagine seeing your sister like that and being like, oh, okay, see you later. Like, something is effing wrong. You pick them up, you take them with you.
But I think at that point,
spend a couple of weeks or months together until they're not wrong anymore.
But I think at that point, he's done that. And I think he's been like, I've done this enough. I can't do this anymore. And it's like, well, what do you do? But at this point,
it's Carol's house and it's your turn.
Exactly. And that's the problem, though, is that they're so used to denying what has happened to them that being haunted for an entire summer of their lives is akin to, I spilt some milk on the floor. It's just like, it's this weird thing where the bar is a lot lower than it should be. And so they're holding them to these impossible emotional standards that they shouldn't be. They're like, oh, Nelly, why don't you get your life together? Because she's been haunted by herself for decades. That's why she can't get her life together.
I don't know where they're... Or had just died. Like, the lack of understanding between them was ridiculous.
But that's what I'm saying. It's just all steeped in this crazy denial. And this like, nope, didn't happen. You should be over this by now. And it's like, what? Why is that a thing?
What these characters have been through, kind of, and like the way they were, and how, what those experiences turned them into. Versus other shows will try to pull stuff like this, and it's like you skipped a couple scenes in between here and there to make that make sense.
But
everything makes sense as you watch it.
But that's what made it so beautiful. The fact that I didn't know Nelly was married, and not only married, but like widowed until like a few episodes in. And this heifer had died and nobody's talked about it. Like there were no pictures, no talk of friends, nothing from this.
We get the flashbacks to the wedding, and then it's just like, well, what happened to him?
Yeah, you're like, who are these people? And like Nelly had this life, and you're just like, where did this end? And then you see, oh, this is how this ended. This insanity caused all this isolation, which led her to, isolate herself and make these crazy decisions that led her right back into this zaniness and right back to Hill House. So, where the stupid lights came on. That's so good. So good. I love it. Ugh. So
the porch light reminded me of life pre-cell phones.
I know. Like, better be home before the porch light comes on. It's like, oh, Lord. You be running, booking it. I love it. So good. So I am, and it's funny. This show has actually given me hope for other shows. I started watching Grace and Frankie. I really enjoy it. And I had been avoiding it because it's such a subject matter that I was like, how are they going to handle this? Like, this is really, supposed to be a comedy. How are they actually going to handle this with any kind of, elegance, with any kind of grace? And they really did. And I was just like, they've really done a good job so far. I'm just still in the first season, but I'm like, I'm really impressed by the way that they've managed to kind of tackle the subject matter and the issues and all the other stuff. So they've done a good job. But yeah, so I think
it's like in today's day and age, you get a lot more sympathy for the cheating gay husbands.
Oh, definitely.
That come out to the point where not even I'm comfortable with it. And I'm glad that it managed to tackle this in a way that wasn't homophobic against them.
Exactly.
Without devaluing the pain, minimizing the pain that these women go through.
Exactly.
Being used in that way.
Yep. Exactly. And the families, they were like, this is too soon. Like, you've had 20 years to get used to this. We've had like a week. Oh God, I know. Oh Lord. That's a whole nother saga. Well, in news...
There were some things about this story that I wanted a little bit more background on, and I know they did the best they could with the budget that they had, and it's a wonderful masterpiece. But I wanted to know what Cheryl's power was.
I don't think they have powers. I don't think that they're psychic. I think they're just regular.
That
really?
Yeah. Things that she says in bed. Olivia mentions that she has something of her own.
Yes.
Who does?
That she does. Because Olivia says that she has something because she says Nell is in the red room. Like, that's like the first...
Or like Nell is like dancing in the red room. Or
Yeah, something like that. And she says that's like her first introduction. Where it's
but I feel like... I don't know.
But like Olivia points it out. Like, she's like, it's not as strong or as unignorable as Theo's was, but she has one herself. So does Luke and Theo. So does Luke and Nelly. I think it's more Nelly linked to Luke.
Well, yeah, I think it's more Nelly, and then Luke just kind of has that twin connection. But, and then I don't think that Steven has anything. I think they have like a sensitivity just because they're all kind of connected. Oh, they said that every time Nell haunts them, she's wearing the thing that she last saw them in. And I had actually noticed that with Steven. I didn't notice it right away with a few of the other. Yeah, she was wearing the same clothes. Because I noticed with Steven because the last time he saw her was at the book reading. And I was like, what? She's wearing the same thing she was wearing to the book reading. And then that's how I knew. I was like, ooh, that ain't her. I was like, ooh, this ain't right. And so, yeah. Oof.
And I would have liked a little bit more exploration on the door guy that follows Luke around.
The door guy. Which guy?
You know how Luke's walking around outside after he gets out of rehab, and he's counting his sevens because the guy with the cane is
the hat
him around, the tall guy.
Oh,
I wanted a little bit more story about who that man was and then why he was so transfixed with Luke.
That's Joe Hill, and it's because he stole his hat. That was that dude. Huh?
It ended up being Olivia.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because he had repressed what was done to him by his mom in the Red Room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why. He wasn't frightened of the big tall man anymore. He was frightened of Olivia.
Yeah.
That was what was haunting him. Olivia.
I would
not...
like that done smoother.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I didn't put it all the way together until it turned around and then it was Olivia with the hat. And I was like, wait a minute.
I would have also have liked the, when young Hugh sees something wrong with the house plans with Olivia in the past. She draws up the Hill House plans, like, all merged together. I would have liked a little bit of more of an explanation on why it was weird and what was on there.
It was her it was her forever house. And I would have liked just a couple more sentences on that. I would have liked them to make that just a touch more, like, prominent. Because I know what you mean. Because at first I was like, this looks like a jigsaw puzzle. I didn't really see anything different because I didn't fully remember the plans for her forever house. So when they were all tiny within the Hill House, I was like, this looks like nothing to me. I was like, I don't get it. And they're like, Olivia, you're going crazy. And I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, and I would have liked that map to have been some kind of tool that could have been used later on.
Oh, well, one thing in the opening credits, they actually did show the map of the Hill House and the walls kept changing. And so it was kind of like a clue moving forward. You know, that was a fun little thing. But I wouldn't have liked that only because I thought that might have been just a little too, like, wink, wink, you know? But I would have liked them to expand just a little bit more on exactly what she was doing with this forever house within that. Because I thought that that was a big deal. And I think that they were expecting everyone to kind of be like, oh, architecture, you know? And I'm like, I didn't. I wanted to get that more.
A little bit of a real life flashback of Poppy.
Whew, I was good with Poppy.
There was not so much, but like they condensed so much into 10 episodes, but I would have liked it.
I would have liked to see Poppy's daughter at least once, because that's who I thought Abigail was. That's who I thought Abigail was. I thought because especially because of the haircut. Because Abigail's daughter looked like a Dust Bowl child. Abigail looked like a Dust Bowl baby. And so I didn't think she was modern. And that was a big part of it too. I didn't even think that she was modern. So that's another reason I thought that she was a ghost. I just didn't know that her mama was like, look, here's a bowl. We gonna give you a cut. But no, I thought that Abigail was Poppy's daughter, and that's why we had never seen her. But because we saw the son in the wheelchair.
I would have liked a little bit more reveal towards the end of where Hugh was during the kids' lives. And what the rationale for it was. Like, I mean, we can
that would have been cool, yeah. Just kind of a little filler episode to kind of see how that progressed. That'd be interesting.
And what else? I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it only leaves you wanting.
Exactly.
It's so damn perfect.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, the things I'm asking for are
like,
not
you just want to see more.
Enjoy the story for what it is.
Right. Like, you just want some gravy. You know? Because it was so well done. That you know that they would do that so well too.
Like, guys, I was texting Stacy when I was watching this, and I was like, they managed in, did I say 20 minutes?
Yeah.
In 20 minutes to give you more backstory and actual action going on at the same time than more than 6 episodes of Teen Wolf.
Well, we said every
20 minutes.
Every minute was accounted for.
An hour long, so you feel like you are watching at least a season of television, but not in the exhausting way. It's just in the information and action that is actually going on.
No, you feel like you've been through the wash,
yes,
the rinse, and the dry cycle,
and the spin
multiple times.
That's what he
You
said.
are threadbare.
Every
Olivia.
minute was accounted for. Every minute was used. He said they had a whole thing planned where they were going to do a whole background on the hills, but in the end they didn't have the time or the money to film it. And so they had to kind of weave that into the story. And I was like, it just made it so rich. I can't imagine what more they could have done if given the time / money. You know, I'm just like, oh, I want to see it. I just love having that.
They've been given 18 to 21 episodes.
Oh,
Oh,
I think it might have diluted it.
I don't know. I actually think it would have been okay.
More. They could have kept it up.
Mm.
But I'm good. I'm good speculating.
Yeah.
I am so happy with what I saw.
Yes.
It was not a waste of time.
Loved it.
I will probably watch this again.
Yeah.
Not because I have to, but because I want to catch all the little things. But wow.
I loved it. So, thank you guys so much for coming out and expounding over this fantastic work of art with me. Until next time, I don't know what is going on with our special interview. I just want to, he put out the story. He was like, oh, I got nothing to do this weekend. I might watch The Godfather. I don't know. And I was like, sounds like a perfect weekend for an interview. And then it was like crickets. So I was like, well, there goes my answer. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But, so I don't know what your idea is. Did you ever send it to me? And also, no, because I know it's going to be trifling.
Yeah, seriously.
What is it? I like BBS's ideas.
No, you don't.
Oh, no.
They don't involve
You cannot encourage.
celebrities.
I hear a corner that's calling your name.
Right, exactly. I said, this is why I charge you rent for the corner, BBS. Send me a DM, BBS, and then I'll decide. And then we'll talk about it next week.
You've made it all luxurious.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's like a nice little condo.
It's all
like,
pimped out.
Sponsored walls.
I love it. All right, say goodnight, Ethan.
Good night, everybody. I took my melatonin 45 minutes ago,
Ooh.
and I am about to fall over.
Yes, go do your thing, boo. Oof, have a snore on me. Say goodnight, Philip.
Good night, guys. Just a reminder, we have Roswell, New Mexico on the CW. We have All American on the CW again this week. We have Schitt's Creek
Yes.
season 5 on Pop. And there was another one, but I totally forgot it, so you're going to have to pay attention. And listen to us next.
Yay!
Have a good night, guys.
Can't wait. Oh, and Geeky is doing an Indiegogo. Link is on the site, so go check that out. They're always a great supporter of us, and they're fantastic, so go check it out. All right, guys.
I'm on Instagram, so go follow me at Phantom/Tumblr.
Oh yeah, he began restored from models, so that's all I know. And he be going into I see that smirk. We'll talk about that later. All right, you guys. I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful night. Night.
Bye.